Okay, in this third video for today, I'm going to show you the third thing, or the third situation, and this is one also where we can factor out the GCF, but when we do, after we factor out the GCF, we're still left with a coefficient of x that we've got to take care of. So let's just go ahead and take a look. Step number one is going to be to factor out the GCF. And again, remember that the greatest common factor becomes part of our solution. The next step, since we still have a coefficient of x squared, we've got to multiply it times c. So we're going to multiply a times c. Our third step is going to be to find two numbers whose product is ac, or a times c, and whose sum is b. These will be called m and p. Step number 4 will be to rewrite the original equation in the form ax squared plus mx plus px plus c. And then the last step will be to group and factor, and don't forget your greatest common factor. Let's take a look at an example of one of these. Here we have 6x squared plus 22x minus 8. So when we look at this, we can see that the 2, this is an even number, that's an even number, that's an even number, so we can factor out a 2. And when we factor out 2, we have 2 times 3x squared plus 11x minus 4. Now, even though we factored out the greatest common factor, there is still a coefficient of x squared, so a. So we're going to have to do that step where we're going to multiply a times c. So when we multiply a times c, we do 3 times negative 4, which is equal to negative 12. So our next step is to find two numbers that when we multiply them together, we get negative 12, and when we add them together, we get positive 11. So here's what I came up with. Negative 1 times positive 12 is a negative 12, and negative 1 plus 12 is equal to 11. So now that we have m and p, our two numbers that multiply to ac and add to b, we're going to plug them into our equation in the form of 3x squared minus 1x plus 12x minus 4, and don't forget the greatest common factor. Now we're going to group, so we're going to group the 3x squared with the negative 1x, and we're going to group the 12x and the negative 4x, and we're going to pull out the greatest common factor. When we do, in the first term, I can pull out x, and I'm left with 3x minus 1. In that second term, I can pull out 4, which leaves me with 3x minus 1. Now we have our common factor, so we can rewrite this as 3x minus 1 times x plus 4, and don't forget that greatest common factor. So when our final version of this, our factored form, would be 2 times 3x minus 1 times x plus 4. I hope these 3 little short videos help you, and as always, reach out if you have any questions, and we will be working some examples together.